I'm Chris Silverberg, a research manager at IDC covering OSS, BSS, and of course part of that being assurance. Now, panelists, I would like you to introduce yourselves before you sit down with, one, what do you do, where are you working, but also, when we say that title, intelligence assurance, or intelligent assurance, what does that actually really mean to you? So, Yuvraj, we'll start with you and we'll work down.
Thank you. So I'm Yuvraj Tandon. I work for Vodafone. I have two responsibilities in Vodafone. I look after the UK network operations, and I'm also responsible for all the network operation centers which serve all our European opcos. So we have been on our automation journey for the last 7-8 years in all our NOCs, starting with very basic, primitive, then moving on to rule-based workflow automation, adding AI, ML, and now we are thinking of Gen AI. Now, what does intelligent assurance mean to me in operations? I think if I put it simply, it is bringing the power of AI, ML, and data science into operations so that the networks can self-monitor, self-optimize, and self-heal. But why do we need it, right? These are all very fancy words. Why do we need it? And I think the reason we need it, and coming from operations close to the ground, the networks are becoming more and more complex. They're difficult to manage. Technology is complex. And the demands on the customer experience are increasing significantly. It is getting pretty much beyond human ability to manage that. And unless we bring AI, ML into that, we will not be able to catch up. So that's the rationale we are going behind.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Yuvraj. Simona, over to you next.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're not sleepy from lunch. My name is Simona, and I am part of Bell Canada. I'm a solution architect there, and as part of my role, I am doing a lot of R&D strategy, POCing different technologies, and assuming the value that would bring to the company. So part of my role is looking at all the network domains, or, at the moment particularly focused on the RAN, but all the network domains, and figuring out how to bring the per domain assurance as well as end-to-end. So when we talk assurance, that means getting the right data out of the network, creating the right control loops at the right levels of the network, and figuring out where AI ML can help us bring more data-driven decision-making and bring more optimizations to the network.
Excellent. And intelligence assurance, what does it mean to you?
Well, intelligent assurance, right? It's how do we use AI ML in the best possible way to actually bring in the optimizations that we need to make sure that based on, I can say, service or slice, we're offering the KPIs, the SLAs that the network actually needs or the end customer needs, right? And when we talk intelligent assurance, we kind of have to go back to, I guess, in the future when we have all of those use cases like V2X, Industry 4, or someone would say 5.0. How do we actually create the assurance control loops in the network to make sure that we can actually deliver on those, right?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Simona. Shabir.
Shabir, Technical Director at BT, looking after the software development aspect of RAN, core, and the voice, all across the board. Coming to the intelligence assurance, so we are in a growth trajectory. Almost every telecommunication companies are in a growth trajectory, but in a very competitive, highly complex digital landscape with ever-increasing demand, customer demand for shorter refresh cycles. So that's where we are. And in order to meet that, in order to manage that challenge, we need to transform the way in which plan, build, and monitor, build and operate our networks. In order to transform, in this transformation journey, we need to make sure that we have the network qualities in place, manage the network quality, maintain the network quality, maintain network performance, and also reduce time to repair. the manual processing of the tickets or manual activities to manage the operations is not sustainable. It's not sustainable to meet the challenges what we have. That's where the intelligence assurance come into play. By using artificial intelligence, before even get to AI or a Gen AI, we need to really make sure we move away from the silo data into more of a connected data graph, and then create insights, right? Actionable insight, which become enabled for AI and Gen AI, etc. So that's in a nutshell what we are trying to achieve with Gen AI.
Excellent. Thank you, Shabir. Rami, last but by no means least.
So I'm representing here the vendor side of things. So we need to tackle with all of the issues that are presented by my colleagues here. So my name is Rami Amit. I'm RADCOM's CTO and head of product. So I lead the vision and the product strategy for the company. And we've been in this journey for automated assurance, intelligent assurance in the past few years. So what I believe is it all starts with good data. And if you don't have data that can be correlated end-to-end in your network, you end up with data that is averaged and that may not be sufficient to make decisions. So I heard many panelists talking about assurance and at the end of the day relying on data that is PM data, that may be average data, and not on a per session data and not on a per subscriber data. And only if you have sound data that is coming across all of the network and you can do that in real time, you can make real intelligence decisions that are based on your condition of the radio and the condition of your IMS network, because it all ties in as a one session into your network. So this is definitely the things that we're striving to do as part of that journey.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rami. So we're going to return to that question of data in just a moment to kind of understand, look, what are the data fundamentals? What are the building blocks that we're working with? But first, out there in the audience, we do want this to be fairly interactive. So we've got 22 minutes left. So in about 10, 11 minutes time, I will be turning to you to see if we can squeeze in a question or two. So do start formulating them. But Rami, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll jump around the panel a little bit. Let's start. What are the data building blocks which you're working with and supporting your CSP customers with?
So I think, again, I'll go back to the data and start to explain. I mean, when we're tackling with a network, we want to look at end-to-end, at the complete network, and try to do as much as possible things in real time. So we collect the data from all of the monitoring points in the network. We're not relying on data that is provided by the network functions. We collect the data ourselves. So if it's the Open Run, then we can monitor the Open Run in real time from the actual interfaces of the Open Run. If it's the core, we can tap the network from the HTTP2 interfaces within the SBI, collect that data, and act upon that data. And at the end of the day, if you can provide correlated data, again, down to the session level, this is really meaningful because you can tell if something went wrong in a specific session, and then things could be driven from that decision. And so it's not just for a per session basis, it's also for a per subscriber basis. It's not that you need to factor things based on one specific subscriber, but when you average up data, you want to do it as much as possible in a reliable way, and you want to rely on the customer perceived experience and not on something that is coming from a network function, because at the end of the day, you want to create processes that help to improve the customer experience and to bring a better network and a more efficient network. So I think it's key, the data aspect in automated assurance and intelligent assurance is very critical to the play.
Thank you, Rami. And interesting what you were talking about in terms of a customer segmentation element. That was something which has been discussed a lot in terms of when we're getting more observability into networks, into services, we can actually start doing that at a deeper level. Shabir, I want to pick up from you now, because you mentioned in that opening of, look, everything is getting more. We're getting more. It's obviously more complex, which I think, Simona, you also mentioned, and also you, Yuvraj. So from your point of view, how are you sorting these data building blocks?
So just like Amit spoke about variety of data, right? So how do you connect these data? First of all, correlate the data. The earlier, maybe 2 or 3 years back, if you would have asked me, how do you collect this data, I would have gone for like a data lake, bring every data into one place. I think that concept has changed now, right? So you have more and more devices getting connected with 5G, opening with the NAS, networks as a service concepts. And then you have more and more subscriber transaction data. And then you have your application network data, which is metrics, logs, and then your service data, service catalog. So you cannot put everything into one data lake and then expect an instant response from the data lake. That's where the data mesh architecture coming into a picture. So we are from BT's side, we are focusing on standardizing the way in which exposing decentralized data in a more standard way so that you can correlate through a data mesh architecture. So that rather than buying an off-the-shelf tool, okay, the tool will be coming into future when you need AI, but until then, we are creating that building blocks so that focusing on the data mesh architecture and the NWDAF, which is network function, analytics function, that's very key. And we are following that principle so that when we come to the end of the tunnel, we are all standardized. So that's how we are.
On that standardization aspect, who is doing the standardizing? Is this something which you as a CSP is doing on? Are you relying on the likes of Rami?
It's a collaborative effort, right? We cannot, because TMF forum or 3GPP specification, everything has to have a collaborative effort. With the Camara project is there on the other hand. So we are working with all these people, right? So TMF, GSMA, 3GPP. So the standardization has to be done by a centralized function. But from our perspective, what we provide to them is the use cases and the problem statement. So once they create that interfaces for the external consumption, it should make sure that they factor in our requirement. So that's where we're collaborating it. Yeah.
Excellent. And you've given us a great leap we'll go after, Simona and Yuvraj, you've had a chance to speak in these data building blocks. We'll jump onto those use cases in a lot more detail. But Simona, let's start with you. How are you seeing this problem?
So I would agree with my fellow panelists here. It's data is essential, right? And I'm going to share a short story. And this would be on the transport network. So this would be the ITF domain. But one of the things that we did, and we presented our work last year this time, was AI ops for networking. We partnered with a vendor, and we were looking to create this AI ops so that it would be an automated pipeline to train AI ML models for a use case. That use case at that point was network forecasting. And what we very soon discovered is there was only as much we could do with the data that we were at that point collecting in our labs. And so we went on a journey that's been almost a year now, in which we were very much focused on how do we extract the best possible way to extract the right data from the network, right? What are the data types that we actually need? And how do we extract it? There's different planes, right? You want the flow level data from your transport network. You want your management plane data. You want your control plane data, all right? So all of these different types of data come with their own intricacies of how you actually best collect, process, and store, right? So I would say sometimes we tend to overlook the complexities of actually getting the right level of data, the right granularity, and the right counters and KPIs that give you a good sense of what's happening in the network. So I would agree that once we do have the data and we know the context around that data, it's much easier to talk about use cases and how we can get to intelligent ML AI-based decision-making for assurance as well.
Excellent. Yuvraj, what would you like to add?
So maybe from an operations perspective, I'll just quickly summarize the data blocks which we are using. So of course, we have data which comes directly from the network, which is performance, alerts, etc. We have our ITSM systems on which we have customer tickets, incident tickets. That's second set of data. Then for customer experience, there are two categories. One is active and passive probing, which gives us a customer experience. In addition, we are also using tools which collect crowdsourcing data. We have APIs from these tools which actually collect feeds from Facebooks and Twitters where customers are complaining. I think that is a very powerful data which we use for customer experience. And then there is a set of data which comes through the processes in the organization, which is when you build your inventory, your topology, and so on and so forth, right? So those are the building blocks. We have been, so I agree with my panelists, right? So we have been working to centralize in Google Cloud. GCP is our strategy, but the architecture has to be balanced. Not everything is required to be centralized. So we are, to remove scalability constraints, we are moving this data to GCP, which our data scientists are then using to tools like Python and machine learning to kind of connect these data. Now data is, I think, I've been here since yesterday. The quality of data has been talked about a lot. I can give my perspective, right, as to what it is. There are categories of data. So data which have been historically used for any commercial reasons is good data, right? For your billing, et cetera, right? Data which comes from the network is also largely good data. I think the performance management counters, et cetera, good data. Then there are in-between data, like alerts. Now the alerts, it is not always good. And the reason not it is always good, that the data which we create through the processes and not used for commercial reason, that's bad data because nobody cares about it, right? And inventory, topology, unfortunately falls in that category. And that is the key fabric which we need to correlate all these information and anomalies we are talking about. And that is creating the issue we have. So we have a set of good data, medium data, bad data. I think it's about us to choose our battles because we can't boil the ocean and build use cases on top of it. And that's the approach we are using.
Excellent. So let's get on to those use cases now. Once we've gone through an initial round on use cases, I will turn to you all for a question from the audience. So, Sona, I'd like to start with you on what are kind of a couple of the key use cases now. You've got the data, we're looking at standardizing, trying to make bad data good, but what are you actually using it for? What's the intelligent use cases?
So I think I will start with the maybe per domain, and I'll let the fellow panelists go to others. But I think the low-hanging fruit here is what we need is forecasting, maybe long-term, like capacity planning, or it could be shorter-term for actual near real-time assurance purposes. That's something that I would say with the right level of data would be something easier to accomplish. So definitely forecasting. And then the other one is it really comes down to creating the right level of visibility and observability per domain and end-to-end to actually be making sure that we have the right building blocks for assurance. And we can't really be talking about that unless we have some anomaly detection systems in place, right? We could be talking end-to-end, we could be talking per domain, but I think anomaly detection and root cause analysis are something that in the, I would say, AI/ML toolkit, I think we're sort of adopting that word toolkit for AI/ML. Those are sort of the first use cases that we have to be making sure that we're implementing right.
Excellent. Shabir?
There are many use cases.
But if you had to pick two.
Oh, yeah. The customer experience-based use cases, right? So we have been struggling in terms of providing the right response back to a customer when they report a problem, right? So with intelligence assurance, with all this data together, the transaction data, the application data, we would be able to correlate and provide a customer when they report a problem. We should be able to give them the appropriate response back, and that's one part of it. And then on top of it, you can augment that by removing the customer-centered person and replace that with a self-care virtual assistants for the customers, right? They can check how is BTs or any other network doing. Is there any maintenance happening, or the quality of each network can be easily provided if we have all this data. The second, and then of course, a proactive feedback to customers as well, as and when we find problems, as and when we bring the observability into the network, we can always report the issues back to the customers proactively without even they contacting us. Another one is, of course, the trouble to resolve. Fix the issue before that occurs. So that's where all these your logs, metrics, alarms, and counters will help you, right? We bring that data in together so that you can, with intelligence assurance capability, you can bring anomaly detection and AI-driven assurance, etc. Yeah.
Excellent. And you brought up that point of, like, with so many alarms, it's something when we're talking to CSPs quite a lot at IDC, we kind of go, yes, it's great, we're getting all this alarm data, but everything looks like it's on fire. We don't know what to prioritize, what to fix.
Exactly. The prioritization of alarm is fundamental because it may be, there would be one alarm which is marked as P1, affecting only one customer, but then you will have an entire site gone down. Yeah. So that's where the RAN and the core data all coming together. We can take, AI can do those jobs really, really well.
Excellent. Yuvraj, what are your one or two use cases?
Yes. So, if I classify the AI ML use cases, they are in three categories, right? They are, classification, prediction, and anomaly detection. So anomaly detection is the big one, which we are using. We have our own in-house data scientists which are developing these anomaly detection tools. Our strategy, Vodafone strategy, is to stay domain specific as much as possible. So we see anomaly detections in the domain and try to apply closed loop automation. And then on the top of it, we have been successfully able to correlate these data with the crowdsourcing data, which I talked about. So it gives us great insights into which issue is causing customer experience issues or the customer tickets issue. So we are being able to correlate that with the customer tickets and be able to pick up. These are so powerful that even I get alerts and I come to know that something has caused an issue, has caused a customer experience. I think those have worked very well. On predictive side, we started from a vendor and moved to in-house solutions. Two categories. We have been doing alarm predictions and able to predict the faults that can happen with 70% accuracy, which takes us back to the root cause to fix it. And taking the patterns of performance management and see when the degradations will ultimately make the issue occur. While these are in prediction category, they are basically smart performance management and smart problem management.
Excellent, thank you. Right, Rami, you've kind of heard the CSP angle, what we're doing. We've heard a lot about knowledge detection, capacity planning, also thinking on what we're just kind of saying there on predictive. What are the key use cases that your customers and you're working on?
So I think I'll touch on two aspects that were brought here. I mean, one is customer experience, and I think one of the challenges that are in this industry is that all the data is encrypted. So what we're doing, and we're investing a lot, is how to identify the real customer experience when it comes to encrypted traffic. It could be video OTT, it could be a Teams session or a Zoom session. At the end of the day, if you want to know what the customer is really experiencing, you need to be able to do that, and we're using machine learning to identify the grade of quality of each of those sessions. And on anomaly detection, what I would highlight is a use case that we find very useful for any of the service providers. We practically monitor all of the erroneous release causes in the network, and whenever there's an anomaly, we highlight that to the operation center. And we discussed earlier before the session about how to operate a virtual NOC. This is one of the use cases that can be used in a virtual NOC because, again, when you have the granular data, when you have an anomaly, it's a real anomaly. And once you have, in some cases, when you have PM data and it's average data, you may miss some of the anomalies because average is an average at the end of the day. So this is why it's important to classify the data in multiple dimensions and to provide anomaly detection in each of those dimensions to the customer that is using that virtual NOC or whatever other type of use cases it is. So we provide a framework, an AI framework on top of that data that I discussed, and many of these use cases can be applied on top of that platform.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rami. Right, I've got one more question on my sheet, but now is your opportunity. I think there is a roving mic. We've got a question down here at the front. So mic's coming forward to you, sir. If you can say your name, please, and let us know where you're from, but also make it quick because we've got 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Neeraj Satpal. I'm from HFS Research. And my question is to you, Raj. Do you see technical debt as an impediment in adoption of new technology like Gen AI, LLMs towards your pursuit of intelligent assurance?
So yes, you need different kind of skill sets. You need different kind of culture. So you have to build that, right? But I think the most important point is having the right use cases and go after it, right? I think technology for technology's sake is something which we are all technologists guilty of. If we have the right use cases, yes, the skills and culture is a challenge, but it's still, I think, something we can overcome.
Which is a great introduction to the last question on the sheet, which in about 10 seconds each, I'd like you to give either what is your top Gen AI use case in assurance or your call to action for the room. If you can fit both in within 10 seconds, you can do both. Yuvraj, we're going to start with you.
So let me start with the call for action and then come back to Gen AI. So I'm going to go back to what I said in the start. Technology is getting complex. It is getting beyond human ability to manage it in future. This is a journey. We have to get onto it. There is no two ways about. Second, data is a problem. It's a quality issue, but don't boil the ocean. Pick up your battles, and you can make a difference. Gen AI, my final dream is I turn to Gen AI and say, I have an incident, tell me what the problem is, and you can tell me what the issue is. That's my challenge to my digital team.
Perfect. Simona?
Well, I would say as a company, we've done a lot in terms of big data and use cases like the ones that we've mentioned. We've tried many different ML/AI approaches and built many use cases. And I think as an industry, we need to figure out where Gen AI is to be placed. And right now, what I see as use cases for Gen AI is really how to visualize the data that we already have, query some network inventory information. And moving forward, what I see in terms of Gen AI is really intent-based orchestration, being able to actually specify to Gen AI what do you want, what do you want the network to be performing like, and it be generating the code for you to do that.
Excellent. Shabir?
Gen AI is an interesting use case because Gen AI is, if you look at the definition of Gen AI, it is generating something new. You create a knowledge base, and it actually has its own brain and creates something new. So you need to check what Gen AI is producing is correct or wrong. So that validation has to happen. So when you select, you can't really select a random use case, which is operationally very important, and give it to Gen AI. So one use case, what we are, from our end, we are trying to solve is to load all our network documentation into a Copilot or somewhere, and then ask them the question, how do you build so-and-so? That's the only use case we are looking into it. Any other, going into production, need...
Thank you, Shabir. Rami, very quickly, unfortunately, we are over time.
Yeah, on a minus. So I think maybe I'll tie it into the two questions into one. I mean, I think Gen AI is going in a rapid manner, much faster than any other revolution that we've seen in our lifetime. And I think the call for action is to collaborate. I think we have some collaboration with the academia. We're trying to create some new use cases. We don't know where the use cases will come from. Initially, the use cases are around text and about things that are more on a LLM-based approach, like talking to your network. So we just published that we're doing that. But I think it's open for many other new use cases. And the call for action is open up the network and collaborate. And let's collaborate as a team and create some new, maybe foundation model for telco, which is maybe the holy grail for Gen AI.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. You've been fantastic. A big round of applause, please.